We're Team The More You Flow, and the reason that we chose that name is because we wanted this to be a PSA about that little blue symbol, which is the symbol for Microsoft Power Automate, formerly known as Microsoft Flow. We love that little blue symbol, so we're going to take it with us through the rest of the presentation. So who are we? Well, Team The More You Flow is made up of myself, Corey Kraft, and Melanie Dampier, who is an hourly teammate that is absolutely crucial to our team. As you can see from this fantastic diagram, Melanie and I sit right next to each other in the quality offices, which made it really easy to collaborate. And even though we did all the development on this project, it was a total plant-wide effort. Almost everyone in the plant, both salaried and hourly, helped to troubleshoot, beta test, and provide feedback for this project. We are so proud of this project because it was a total group effort and a group success.
So, what is our project exactly? Well, our project is actually made up of 3 individual Kaizens. One for abnormalities, one for the Kamishibai system, and one for Kpis. But it's actually the way these 3 Kaizens come together to create a unique and powerful system. This is really a key element to our project, so we're going to talk about each individual Kaizen as well as how they all tie together. We're excited to take you on this adventure with us, so let's get started. In order to understand our Kaizen, we have to understand where we were. So let's review the current condition, and we'll start with abnormalities. We were tracking abnormalities on a whiteboard, which naturally evolved into WhatsApp groups because they allowed for sharing photos. But these group messages had no way for tracking action items and quickly became so flooded that items were getting missed. This unorganized system resulted in a large waste of waiting for action items to be communicated, assigned, and completed. Now, let's talk about Kamishibais. Quality was spending hours every week keeping up with the dated paper system. The paper slips were not holding people accountable, and participation was really suffering. It wasn't working, and frankly, audits were being pencil whipped because it was a pain to complete. Take, for example, you're doing an audit in the back of Building C on the reticulation chamber, and you identify a failure. Well, now you have to walk all the way back to Building A to get a failure slip. You fill it out to the best of your ability, and then walk it to the production leadership in Building B. You hand over the action item, but you're not a reticulation expert and production leadership doesn't quite understand the problem. So now you both have to walk all the way back so you can show him the problem. And now that he's seen it, the problem is finally understood and your job is finished. But just look at all the walking that has occurred just to complete one audit. And it's this massive waste of motion as well as the waste of excess processing in maintaining this dated system that we found to be a problem. But let's not forget about KPIs. As you know, KPIs are typically reviewed during morning stand-up. This meeting is intended to help us manage and is meant to be data-centric, fluid, and quick. But unfortunately with us, that was not the case. You see, our meetings lacked visuals to help us understand that data, lacked fluidity. We were spending time flipping back through papers and they rarely lasted less than 30 minutes. Just spending the time compiling the reports to bring out to the floor was a big headache. And it's really all these wastes of excess processing, running reports, and the waste of waiting to understand our data that were the real problem. And I'm sure by now you've noticed a trend where we're seeing a lot of the same waste surrounding these 3 areas. And these wastes are keeping us from success. So we know our problems, but how do we fix them? Well, in order to fix something, you have to understand it. So we used our WPS problem-solving methods to help us identify the true root cause. And what better method than the 5 why? For abnormalities, our 5 why led us to a root cause that our system was lacking standardization and not compatible with the Microsoft 365 environment. For Kamishibais, our 5 why analysis led us to the root cause that our system wasn't going to be able to be automated to help us eliminate that waste, unless we were able to digitize both the cards and the audit forms. And for our KPIs, our 5 why analysis made it painfully clear that our root cause was a lack of a digital hub that could be easily adopted by the management team. So we now truly understand the root of why we are experiencing all these wastes. But let's step back for a second and think about where we want to be. What's our desired condition? What does our future look like where these root causes are addressed? Well, for abnormalities, it looks like a quick and simple digital form for submitting issues that really makes the images the main focus. Because as we all know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. But we also want to try and seamlessly integrate the issues with a corrective action so we can bridge that disconnect. Now, for Kamishibai, that desired state is definitely going to include a digital K card paired with a digital form. But we also want to incorporate a lot of automation to take care of that excess processing. And similarly to the abnormalities, bridge that gap between failures and corrective actions. Finally, for KPIs, that desired condition looks like a completely digital hub for tracking our KPIs, where we can truly start to embrace Industry 4.0. We want to easily monitor trends in addition to our daily KPIs, but also have a dynamic environment that enables us to react quickly. So we understand where we want to be, but how do we get there, Corey?
Well, Melanie, we're so excited to share with you, and we'll start with abnormalities. We were able to use Microsoft Forms to create a digital audit where we could really make the images the main focus. And so now when the auditor hits submit, those images are carried over in an automatic email directly to the responsible department manager. The issue and expectation are clearly stated with a suggested corrective action. This prompts the manager to click the link, which will take them directly to a Sharepoint list, where they will find their new corrective action already logged and waiting for them to assign a champion and a due date. The second a champion is assigned, Power Automate triggers a flow to alert them that they've been assigned an action item. This email includes the images, so everyone knows exactly what the problem is. Once the champion completes the action item, an email is automatically sent to the champion, the manager who assigned the task, and the original submitter who identified the problem, letting them know that the action item is complete. Additionally, now that the data is structured and in the cloud, we're able to create Power BI dashboards to help drive accountability. So let's take a closer look at this dashboard. You can see in blue where we can now track the amount of abnormalities identified by person, which is fantastic because now we can reward the top identifiers each month, as well as the person that's closing the most amount of action items. On the left, you can see our breakdown for the amount of open action items and their status, but also a breakdown by department. And this is so crucial because we can identify the departments that need the most support, because we want to help each other to succeed in that one winning team attitude. Which, in the spirit of that one winning team, led us to post signs with QR codes all over the plant, where anyone can quickly launch the digital form to help identify a problem. We also now encourage visitors to identify issues while they're in our plant, and all this really helps with engagement because we're getting that email letting us know when our issue has been solved. So now, with our digital abnormality system, we've been able to create instant accountability that has helped us to eliminate our waste of waiting that we identified earlier. Moving on to our Kamishibai system, we were able to use Power Automate to do our scheduling for us. The system automatically selects 5 random auditors and matches them up with 5 random K cards every single day. And for each card, a unique assignment email is automatically sent out to each auditor. And thanks to some nifty HTML code we've added in, we were able to exactly replicate the physical K cards our auditors were already used to looking at 100% digitally, as you can see from the example here on the screen. And it's because so many of us already review our emails on our phones and tablets that we were able to create a dynamic duo by adding a simple Microsoft form for our digital audit. Now the auditor can easily switch back and forth between their audit card and the audit, 100% digital and 100% mobile. And it's because we now have all that digital data that we're able to easily create some Power BI dashboards for viewing things like failure rate and a breakdown of open or late audits by department. This is a big improvement because these reports are directly tied to the data, auto refresh, and require absolutely no excess processing from the quality team in order to maintain. But it also opens up the opportunity for some new reports that would have been impossible before, like these breakdowns to see the performance of each auditor as well as the effectiveness of each individual K card. This was a total light bulb moment for us because the K cards that are failing the most are helping us to identify real problems out on the floor and thus adding value. Conversely, now that we could identify our non-value add cards, we could bridge the gap between our 8D system and integrate it, where K cards that are generated from 8Ds will now replace non-value add cards. This is huge because it creates an environment for systemic continuous improvement where our new issues are being funneled into our audits, replacing old problems that have already been solved. So let's think back to the example that Melanie walked us through earlier. Just look at all that motion being wasted with the old Kamishibai system. Well, with our new digital Kamishibais, as soon as an auditor identifies a failure, an image of the problem is instantly transmitted through the internet directly to the responsible department, completely eliminating our waste of motion. So you may be thinking, that sounds great, Corey, but what does this have to do with the abnormalities? Well, that's the really exciting thing because we were able to achieve that systemic continuous improvement by funneling our audit failures directly through our digital abnormality board. Audit failures are treated just like any other abnormality and even tracked on our abnormality dashboard. And it's because our managers, auditors, and champions all come to the same location for tracking action items that we're able to seamlessly connect our abnormality and Kamishibai systems, standardizing that instant accountability we spoke about earlier. Okay, finally, let's talk about KPIs. So if you remember, we set out to create a centralized digital hub where we could monitor trends. And in order to do that, we would need to find a way to implement effective management tools that were also easy to teach and learn. Thankfully, we were able to make that connection, giving us our instant accountability and performance hub that was quick and easy for our management team to learn, which really opened up our possibilities. And we were able to achieve this via our Kpi dashboard on Sharepoint. But what does that look like? Well, this is what it looks like. We've created our own WITP Chattanooga Sharepoint that houses our Kpi dashboard where daily, weekly, and month-to-date KPI trends can be viewed not just every morning during stand-up, but anytime throughout the day. This opened up all members of the plant as well as our corporate leaders to instantly know how we are performing, which really helped with our extra departmental collaboration. But it also allowed for that dynamic environment, as you can see with these dashboards that we added later for viewing our top COPQ issues developed in real time, as well as an OEE performance breakdown by Machine Center. And it was because of this dynamic digital environment that we were able to adapt so quickly to the COVID-19 pandemic. And our transition to virtual meetings via Teams was completely seamless. It's really this dynamic environment that has allowed us to react and adapt quicker than we ever had before. Like, for example, how we were able to add our dashboards from the abnormality and Kamishibai systems to the KPI dashboard, allowing for daily review by the management team. And it's the way all three of these systems interconnect that enables and encourages that instant accountability, which eliminates our wastes of waiting, motion, and excess processing that we identified before. We're really excited about the way these systems work together. So excited, in fact, that we couldn't wait to share it. And that's exactly what we did. So next, let's talk about some of that shared impact. We created a Microsoft Stream channel, which is sort of like our own internal YouTube channel, where we could post training videos that we developed. We also hosted training classes for anyone that was interested, and these systems actually led to the development of the Power Platform Council, which is a cross-discipline team focused on creating an environment where others can come to learn and get inspired. For example, the corporate process group was able to create their own digital abnormality board as a result of one of our trainings. We inspired and helped build the corrective action tracking in our new internal audit system by corporate quality. And Sharepoint sites are currently being developed for WITP New Jersey and Monterey. We've also had half a dozen quality managers reach out to us about our Kamishibai system, and we're so excited about working with them on that. So we shared the impact, but let's talk about what really matters, and that's our financial impact. Well, in order to understand that financial impact, it's important to note that our clicker stopped working. It's important to note that because each of the applications we used were already included in our Woodbridge Office 365 accounts, each improvement we've shown you today was completed at absolutely zero cost. And we think that apps like these are going to be such a big part of Woodbridge's future because of their low cost, high impact nature that puts the power of development into the hands of the end user. But what exactly is that impact? Well, from fiscal 2019 to fiscal 20, we were able to cut our COPQ nearly in half as a percent of sales, with reductions in scrap, returns, and premium freight. And as I'm sure we're all aware, anytime we see a downward trend in COPQ, we can expect to see an upward trend in gross profit, as you can see here in this gross profit as a percent of sales from fiscal 19 to fiscal 20. And this is great, but what does it have to do with our Kaizen? Well, WITP Chattanooga has been in the midst of a serious culture change, and the instant accountability from our abnormality system, the systemic continuous improvement from our Kamishibais, and the faster trend identification from our Kpi Dashboard were all key elements in that culture change. But it's the way these three systems came together to develop a strong foundation for the roots of that culture change to take hold that gave us the stability we needed to adapt to the COVID-19 pandemic and turn what should have been a rough year into a profitable one. Even with a serious decrease in automotive volume, we were able to nearly triple our gross profit as a percent of sales from fiscal 2019 to fiscal 2020, which relates to an additional $3.45 million in gross profit. Thanks to the systemic change brought upon by this project, we were able to identify trends and react to them quicker, paving our way to success. We want to thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our project and open up the floor for any questions.